we've done it. We've finally built my dream garden. Come with me and check it out. Hi, I'm Kylene and I'm the Provident Prepper. I am thrilled to take you on a little tour of our new production garden. Now, a few months ago, we created a video in collaboration with City Prepping where we talked about good basic garden design, because this is the perfect time to design a new garden or to take what your existing garden and tweak it so that it's just a little bit better. But in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how I built my dream garden, or how Jonathan built my dream garden for me, so that we could have a highly productive area with very little work that will provide food for our family for many years to come. Before you ever get busy and design the garden, it's important that you review 4 major functions that this garden will serve. The first is purpose. What is the purpose of this garden? Is it just to grow a few summer vegetables, or is it to provide all the food for your family? The second factor that is important to consider is time. How much time do you have to put into your garden? Because you can let gardening take up all day, every day, or you can have a highly productive garden using only an hour or 2 a day. It's up to you, but the garden design will change depending on how much time you have to contribute to growing your vegetables. The third consideration is the caretaker of the garden. Now, Jonathan did a fabulous job of building these raised beds and helping to get all this in place for me. But quite frankly, I am the primary caretaker of this garden, and I have physical limitations. I have MS, which means that we needed to make this garden handicap accessible so that no matter what happens with my health condition, I'm still able to be out in the sunshine and grow my plants. The fourth consideration is what fits into your budget. Now, for many years, we have been growing in this area in a traditional garden, but this year we had the ability to invest $2,000 into building raised beds and putting in these cattle panel arches. Now, we still had to be very careful with the budget for soil because these are high raised beds, so it can cost a fortune to fill them. And I'll show you exactly what we did to make sure that we had good, healthy soil in these beds on a budget. You may wonder why raised beds are part of my dream garden. But what I found is that I can get a significantly increased yield from raised beds. They take less water than traditional gardens, and all I have to do is add compost every year. I don't have to use a rototiller because nobody's walking on them and compacting the soil. I also like that these are at a level that's really easy to work with. But one of the main reasons why they take less work is because the pathways aren't included in the bed. So it's really easy to maintain the pathways by mowing or using some other kind of hardscape. One of the really cool features that we have added to this dream garden are these cattle panel arches. And I have used these arches in my other garden, but what this does is it significantly increases the productive area by growing things vertically. We created a video for Chris at City Prepping, and we talked about the 7 essential elements of good design. We're going to review those in this garden today. The first of those is access. It's so important that you have close access to your home so that you will utilize the garden more often. Now, we have 2 gardens. This one is our production garden, which is where we will grow the majority of our crops. But the other important factor about access is the caretaker. For instance, in these raised beds, we have made them wheelchair accessible so that it would be easy to move a walker through these aisles or a wheelchair in order to accommodate my personal requirements. The second element of good design is access to water. Water is essential for growing a vegetable garden. Number 3 is sunshine. Plants thrive off of good sunshine. In our garden, we have access to sunshine all day long. With a vegetable garden, it's really important that you have at least 6 hours of good sun in order for the plants to be most productive. Now you can grow some things like greens with less sunlight every day, but as a rule, sunshine is your friend in your garden. Number 4 is topography, or the slope, the lay of the land. Now, you can build terraced gardens in sloped areas, but overall, a garden will be best if you have a nice flat area. Number 5 are the structures that are around you. Is there something that's going to shade your garden? Do you have an ugly building that you want to hide, or perhaps a view that you want to hide? Structures will create some different micro environments, so it's really important to take into account the existing structures that you might have in place. Number 6 is wind. It's really important that you take into account your wind conditions. Here we have a lot of wind, so we need to protect our plants. And what we've done is we have planted a row of apple trees along the border of our property. So over here we have an apple tree that ripens in August, and then all these trees ripen consecutively until November. So not only does that provide our family with fresh apples throughout the entire growing season, but it also helps to protect our plants from some of those harsh winds. And on that side, we have a hedge of elderberries that are growing that should protect them from the north winds. Number 7 is soil. And quite frankly, soil is the most important factor. So in some circumstances, it should have been number 1. But for us in this, it's number 7 because you can bring soil in and incorporate it into your design. Now, the soil that we have decided to use, or the system that we've decided to use, is something called Hugelkultur. And we've been using it on our property for years now with incredible success. And what we do is we've taken logs and twigs and all kinds of woody materials in the bottom of this. It takes up space, which is good because these beds are pretty high. But what it does is over the growing season, it absorbs the water, and then it acts like a sponge and it releases that water back to the plants when they need it. So, and over time, it will break down and it just creates this beautiful, wonderful soil for these plants. In addition to those logs, we have wood chips and leaves and manure and all kinds of organic matter to build this soil. Now, quite frankly, year 1 is not going to be as successful as subsequent years, but because it just takes time, right, for all that little ecosystem to develop in there. But ultimately, these beds should produce for many, many years, with us just adding fresh compost every year. Now, one of the things that we did, because right here was an existing garden, so we'd worked with this soil for many years, and it was fantastic topsoil. So we hired somebody to come and scrape off the top 8 to 12 inches of soil and put it in a pile over there. And that is the soil that we have right on top of all of this. One last little note about an important design element is security. Now, we have a fence that goes the entire perimeter of our property. And actually the reason why that became a high priority is because one day I was out working in my garden and I was actually charged by a bull. And being a silly California girl, I wasn't used to these kind of animals, so what did I do? I took a rake and a shovel and I'm yelling, "Get out of my garden!" Yeah, well, he didn't appreciate that and showed me who was boss. So we put up a fence that would secure our property from large animals that could be wandering in our neighborhood. Now, many of you won't have that problem, but it also secures against dogs and people who may be interested in coming in. I am thrilled with my new garden and the beds that Jonathan has built for me. I have spent many years dreaming of the ideal garden, and now I get to live it. And you can look forward to many videos in the future about how to grow things in raised beds and how to best produce food for your family. We'll create a couple, especially one is about how to fill the beds using Hugelkultur. And the other one is the actual construction of the beds, so that if this is something that interests you, you can see how Jonathan has built and designed these beds. So it's springtime. Let's get gardening. And the question of the day, what is your favorite method of gardening? Comment below. And thanks for being part of the solution.